constantly put in the work, and those hours, is like a snowball, and it just ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's AJ Weinzettel, founder of Block 55.
My name is AJ Weinzettel, and I am the founder of a little SaaS company called Block 55. It is a winery reservation system built for wineries by wineries. And so I like to listen to my customers and make sure that everything is up to par and making sure it's a beautiful experience for them.
For those who may be outside of our region, they might not recognize that Oregon is a huge wine region, very famous for Pinot Noirs and other blends. But maybe give some insight into what inspired you to start this work.
It's been a long journey, right? And I've been in tech forever, right? So I'm, a balding old man, and been in tech forever, seen everything. And really, I would say the journey started kind of somewhere in 2019. I decided to write a weekly newsletter featuring one winery every single week. Long form, 1,500 to 2,500 words every single week. And then I got into interviewing winemakers on a podcast. And so as I'm building all these relationships, I'm seeing a software platform out there that a lot of people are using for reservations. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And from a consumer standpoint, I'm like, I like the user experience. I like how it flows. This is perfect. But then I got to talking to wineries, and they're like, this is really clunky and hard to use. And I'm like, oh, that is kind of hard and clunky. And then I got to see, they started telling me how much they were paying, and my eyeballs almost flew out of my head. I'm like, that's crazy. So being the tech guy that I am, I was like, all right, well, let me create a small little MVP and kind of see what that looks like. I started it and I hated it, so I trashed it. And then I started another one and learned a lot and spoke to a lot of wineries before I released it. And still talking to a lot of wineries and getting a bunch of features inside the system. But that whole process of seeing the wineries needing just a good user experience to manage reservations and to elevate their hospitality was definitely needed. And on top of that, I mean, these are a lot of mom and pop kind of wineries that are just struggling to kind of get by. And to spend $250, $300 a month on a reservation system is just out of the it's out of the world for them. And so that's not right.
What is the kind of learning curve that you encountered with that community? Because I know there are some folks that maybe the perception is they're not terribly technically proficient, but you get into working with them and you realize there's a lot of technology driving their business. I'm just kind of curious from a wine industry standpoint, like, is it a fairly technical group, or is it more folks who require have a little bit of a learning curve?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, you have some of the younger generation that's in the tasting rooms, and they're like, boom, they just fly through it. And other people are, they need a little bit more hand holding, but when you have a good user experience, people are able to figure it out. But I think the biggest challenge that I've learned over the last couple years with the wine industry is everybody wants something a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So everybody runs their business a little bit different, and they want to be able to do reservations and this and that just a little bit different. And it's trying to fit that into one little system has been a nice, fun challenge.
Well, you've already mentioned a couple times about listening to your customer and things like user experience and how important those are. I feel that founders are often the best people to give advice to other founders, and you've already dropped a couple gems. What's one other piece of advice you might offer to somebody who is already working on something or maybe considering taking the leap into starting something?
Don't quit your day job. Number one. And number two, just, constantly put in the work, an hour or two a day, constantly put in the work. And those hours, is like a snowball, and it just ends up getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and just stay with it, be patient. And, the reason that you probably started the startup is to have fun, and it was a pleasure and a joy, and it spoke to you. And just don't burn out. Just continue to have fun and, enjoy it.
In an effort to stay on top of all that's changing, not only in the technology industry, but in the wine industry, and maybe just even as a founder trying to exist in this world as a human, what's one resource that you find yourself going back to time and time again? That could be a newsletter you read, a podcast you listen to, a gym you go to. Like what is one of your reliable resources that helps you be the best at what you want to do?
So I'm a big bicyclist, and I always get shouted out. Not shouted out. I don't know the proper term, but like people are when I say this, right? People are like, "That's dangerous. You shouldn't do that." But I'm a bicyclist, and I like to put on, go for a long bike ride and put on an audiobook. And so the first of every year, start with Seth Godin's "This Is Marketing," and just re-listen to that and re-listen to that, and you just get gems over and over and over again every single time. I also highly recommend his daily email, and just take that time to just absorb what he's saying. And it is the longest running blog out there on the internet. And just going back to finding joy, he does that every single day. I don't know how he does it every single day, but he does.
I'm really glad to hear there are other people who go back to business books on a regular basis. Like I always find a few that are in circulation, like every 6 months or so, I really need to go back as a touch point and either listen to again or reread a business book. Because yeah, to your point, something new always comes out, or I hear something differently because of what I'm currently experiencing. So I really love that advice. And kind of turning the tables here, you've been super helpful with your advice and insights. How can we listening be most helpful to you?
That is where I suck at. I suck big time asking for help. Um, if you're out at a winery, and if you use something other than Block 55 to make a reservation, just throw my name out there to the hospitality person when you're visiting, and just say, "Hey, AJ at Block 55. I've heard amazing things about his system. You should check it out." That would help out a lot.
Do you have a startup story to tell? I would love to hear from you.